My Sunday school class helped me put the elements together now here today, and I told them, now just think and imagine what it would look like if you dropped in one of those. Something for young people to consider. What might happen? What might happen? How could this possibly go well or poorly? I want to take kind of a different tack this morning and just say a few words. I share with you each time, the very first time I took the Lord's Supper was the very first one that I saw. We had never been raised in church much, and I had never heard of or seen the Lord's Supper. And we as Baptists, we did it there at Flint, I found, almost exactly the way we do it here, except we always just took the last 5 minutes of a service, and they scattered out the elements, and then took off. It wasn't really the main thing that we did. It was just something we had to do before we could go home. But I never have, after I came to understand a little bit about it, I thought, well, it's a little more important than that. And however, on the night that Jesus was going to be arrested, they were in an upper room in the city of Jerusalem. They had borrowed this place. I've actually been in the room, in the place that they say this is the upper room. But Jerusalem has been destroyed many times and plundered. It is a rebuilding of whatever has ever been there. But it's stone and rock and concrete. And there's an echo there. Now, every time that I've been in there were always about 8 or 10 other Christian groups who were being ushered in to see the place at the same time that our group came in. There were 30 or 35 of us. And we'd all get in there and we'd say a prayer, or someone would say a prayer, and we'd sing a song or two. And so everybody was doing that. Made me wonder, it was kind of in an upper room where the Pentecostal service started. And I began to think, I wonder how they knew everybody was speaking in tongues. Because a lot of people were talking when we were here, it all sounded like gibberish. But there are some things that I know. Jesus and his 12 apostles were actually observing the Jewish feast of Passover. Big deal. Really big thing. Still big. Orthodox Jewish people still observe, and even people who they know that they're Jewish by descent, but they do not practice Judaism. They still have a great deal of respect for Passover, whether they observe anything at all about it. Something you did with your family. Yes, you did it with your friends too. It was a celebration of when the Jewish people had been enslaved for 430 years in the country of Egypt. And on that night, something was going to happen that would cause Pharaoh to drive them out. Moses had been trying to negotiate a release to let the people go. Now, it's the most important story in Judaism. It's one of the most important stories in the Bible. So a lot of people will debate, is it a legend or a myth, or if it's just a story about a hero. But there's enough extra biblical evidence and archaeological evidence to give any serious thinker a reason to believe that the Exodus story was historical. And the people were invited to this. Invite people into your house. Ask your neighbors to come over. I'm not going to go into the whole Passover story. But if you were in a certain house, if you had followed certain instructions to be in those particular homes, you would be safe that night, and something terrible, something awful was going to happen that night. These Jewish men who were Jesus' apostles had celebrated Passover every year at the same time. And this was something, we try to be creative and innovative about Thanksgiving and Christmas. You don't mess around with Passover. You don't, let's do it a little different this year, for once. No, it was the exact same every time. But you did it with your family. When you see paintings or artist rendition of the Last Supper, it looks very peaceful and serene. It looks beautiful. And the art and the artist makes it look heavenly. But it was awful. It was terrible. I've in recent years become convicted that Jesus and his disciples, that the ministry of Jesus was only about a year long. Maybe a little less than a year, maybe just a little bit more than a year. For so long, I believe that Jesus' ministry took 3.5 years. But I've restudied that. If just nothing else, there was a lot of things that Jesus did, or he was asked to do, and you know what his response was, don't you? He says, if I do that now, they'll kill me. I can't do that now, Mama, because if I have to be there. I'm on a schedule, Jesus was trying to say. And then finally, Jesus came to his disciples and said, my hour has come. It's time to light this fuse. And when he did, it was going to go off. So the things that Jesus was doing and the things that he was saying was not really the kind of things you could say for 2 or 3 years and get away with it. The most recent things that he did is he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, and then he went in and took a whip and threw everybody out of the temple. Well, that's kind of like a cherry on top. Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples was awful. What if you had Christmas or Thanksgiving somewhere else? I mean, not with your mom and dad, your grandparents, nieces and nephews, your children, your grandchildren. What if you were with a bunch of people that you'd only known for just a little while? And for the past 3 months, every time Jesus opened his mouth, he was saying, I'm going to die. They're going to arrest me. And they're going to crucify me. They argued with him. And they told him he was wrong. And they told him not to talk like that. It seemed like everybody in the world was in Jerusalem that Passover. And then Jesus said, one of you here tonight is going to betray me. It was terrible. It was not peaceful. It was not comforting or religious or spiritual or... It was awful. It was awful. And it was going to get worse. It looked like everything was about to end. And all the disciples were deeply disturbed with the thought that every choice that Jesus had made had brought them here. And every choice that he had made was the wrong choice. And they were pretty well convinced by this time that he was going to die. And when they came to arrest Jesus, they all fled. Simon Peter took a swipe at the high priest's servant, but that's about all that came about. It was an awful, terrible time. And so when we observe this, Jesus said, I want you to recreate this memory. I want you to do this. I'm sure it means something different to us now, and I'm glad. But for those men there that night, it was awful. It was terrible. It was fearful and filled with dread. They were on the cusp of the plan of God, and it was going to be tragic. Well, as we celebrate this memory during Christmas time, Jesus was trying to tell them this is what this is about. This is my body, which is broken for you. I'm going to ask our deacons to distribute these pieces of bread, and that's what Jesus did that night. He gave everybody at the table a piece of bread. And this wasn't a part of Passover. Everybody take a piece of bread if you wish to participate. You can exclude yourself if you wish. We will exclude no one, but we'll all take the bread together. The disciples were looking around at each other like, what is this? They were using the leftovers from Passover to start something completely different and new. I, and probably you, don't observe Passover. One of the most important religious feasts and observances in human history. We don't observe it at all. We observe this. Jesus said, take and eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. Then he took a cup, and they all drank from it. Wait until everyone has been served. Judas got his feet washed that night, but he did not observe the Lord's Supper. He was gone. Jesus dismissed him. He gave him the sop, and he said, that which thou dost, do quickly. Get on with it. Do it. Jesus said, this is the blood of the New Testament. Drink you all of it. Is there any Lord's Supper testimony or Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday prayer or thought that you have this morning? Avery, what? Oh, first time to have communion? All right, well, amen. Wonderful. What a wonderful blessing for me to observe her growth and her decision and her parents' part in that, grandparents, and then to be able to baptize her. And if you served her communion, then wonderful memory.
Brother John, I got some prayer requests. When went to school, college with a girl from Prosper. She, about a month or two ago, started feeling like she had a constant cold or something. She actually got diagnosed a few weeks ago with leukemia. My age, got some young children, and just want to say I'm thankful for my family's health, and during this holiday season, my daughter, my wife, and mine, of course everybody, but makes you really just value our health during this time. When we hear about something like that.
That's right. Let's pray for her and her family, and over many years of ministering, it seems that difficulties and tragedies that happen in or around holiday time seem to hit harder, or every time those seasons come back around again, they sometimes bring along with them difficult memories as well. Pray for each other, especially when you have friends that you know that they're facing struggles, and always be grateful. I was kind of killing a little time this morning going through just some videos on my phone. I think I've become addicted to that. Might have to have an intervention. But gratefully, I only send them to Terry and Carice, and then I found out that Addison is on Instagram, so she's getting them too now, getting card tricks. Comedian that I'd heard, he's kind of a very profane comedian. I sometimes blush if I listen to him. I think, well, I wouldn't have said that. I hope I never say that in public. But somebody asked him, I don't listen to him much because it embarrasses me when I laugh at what he says. But someone was asking him, what's the last thing you do at night before you go to sleep? And surprisingly, he said, I have a gratitude ritual. A gratitude ritual. He said, I just I'm thankful. He said, I have two sons. He said, if they were born 100 years ago, there's a chance that one of them would be dead. He says, because that was just the mortality rate. He said, 100 years ago, you couldn't even take a hot shower. It didn't even exist. Nobody ever thought of it. And he says, I just go through the list, and he says, and I'm thankful. I'm grateful. Well, that's not bad. That's better than anything funny he's ever said. So, anything else?
Thank God for his blessings on us. Mercy and his grace and his love. I'm thankful and grateful for the day.
Thank the Lord. John?
Pray for one of our employees who's passed away. We're going to have a celebration of life today at 2:30 at Life Church in Morrison. So y'all pray for that family.
Yes, I've heard of that. Anything else or anyone else? Continue to pray for Brother Mackey. He's still in the hospital. He's having a hard time. Thanks to the folks who came out, especially the men who came and helped with the singing. That's tough. Singing outside, well, you just think that's just like singing? That ain't nothing like singing. All right, God bless you all. Go with God, and as you celebrate this season, think about, with this dreary message that I shared with the Lord's Supper, say, Lord, I'm thankful that we're in a different place than those early disciples were, and we know a little bit more about what you actually were doing. All right, God bless you all.